Hi Karan,
Hi,
I'm
Shrikant.
welcoming you on behalf of Shivneri Schools. It's really lovely to have you here.
Good to be here.
Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. I am Karan. I'm an undergraduate fourth year student from the Department of Biotechnology, and I'm enrolled in its dual degree course. So, yeah, I'm in my pre final year right now.
Okay, what is that like? A dual degree course? I've already
Yeah,
forgotten.
so I actually have my BTech, the Bachelor's in Technology, and my Master's incorporated in one. So I won't have to spend 2 years after my bachelor's degree to complete a master's. I leave with a
Okay.
master's.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's really great. So it's a 4-year course or a 5-year
it's
course?
a 5 year course.
That's really wonderful. What age did you start preparing for this exam and for the institute?
Yeah, so age, I started it in 11th standard, so that would mean 16. We were 16 at the time.
Right. So,
Yeah.
was it always clear to you that you wanted to get into go towards the IIT? Because there's NEET as well as J. How did you
Agree. Yeah. So I was always ever since I was a child, I was interested in pure sciences and
Okay.
research and the
Mm-hmm.
aspects of discovering things about your
Right.
human body or space or anything. So
Mm-hmm.
when I found that I had biotechnology as an
Mm-hmm.
option, I just jumped towards it. I'm like, sure, I'll take it.
Oh, that's really amazing. So, considering now all the marks are considered for the boards from mains as well as advanced.
Advanced, yeah.
So it's a little difficult to focus on one thing. How did you manage that? Like
So
priority wise, basically.
agreed. Yeah. So JEE was absolutely the priority. You
Okay.
learn a lot through JEE because most of these institutes and like even what you'll study in your 11th and 12th will be ours in JEE. So
Right.
you study mainly for JEE and most of the board syllabus will be covered. So boards is how you frame those answers that you
Right.
learned in JEE. So yeah, you can spend a little time on boards when the exams are approaching. That's how we did it.
Okay. And were you studying from home?
No. I was a hostler in Chaitanya.
Okay, okay. So, basically, did you start, while preparing? How did you manage the time? Because it's a huge course. There are assignments that are going on. There are practicals that you have to
Yeah.
attend, plus there are classes, and you have to study on your own. How did you manage the time?
Yeah, so I think I'd give credits for this to the coaching institute that I was in. They had this time slot like sorted for all of us. They had something called self-study time, like study hours, and then there were classes distributed as well. So you have a
Okay,
class, then you have a study hour. So in that study hour, you're free to study whatever you want.
right,
Mostly, preferably revise what happened in the class because then it's easier for you to remember. But
right.
then yeah. So yeah, the study has actually helped us a lot to structure what I had to study about. And you already knew the priority, like J first and
Right.
then boards. So you it just falls into place.
And how did you go about the preparation when it comes to all of these?
The J we had a lot of
JEE as well as both. How was the
boards.
preparation style different for both of those?
Okay, so JEE basically requires you to solve as many questions as possible in a limited amount of time. Boards is about framing those answers, framing why you got that specific answer. So a few weeks before boards, our institute would actually give us the books and make us practice full-on tests like actual board exams and
Right.
have it checked by the teaching assistants. And for JEE, we had weekend exams where we wrote, model papers for mains and advance. So that was it.
And considering eventually you have subjective answers here and objective. So how was the question paper solving? How important is it, do you think? And how many of them did you do? What was the situation like with you?
So we had this every weekend. We had tests for J. J is a paper that you're supposed to. J is not asking you how well you know your course. It's about how well you can solve the questions
Right.
in the paper. So as many questions you solve, the better. There's no 4 mark question or 1 mark question in J mains. Everything is the same. So as many papers you solve, you learn how to give a paper, and you
Right.
learn the theory in the class, but only while giving a paper you understand how to proceed. So if I don't really remember the number of tests that I've given, but it has easily crossed over 100, 200 papers easily.
Okay, so
Yeah,
proper 3 hour papers you made
proper
it.
3 hour papers. Yeah,
Wow. So, basically 3 hour papers come in the end of the, when you sort of have the idea.
yeah.
But what is it like in the beginning, when you're just put into a pattern that you have no idea about and everything is very vague. So, how do you get it all straight?
So, what helped me the most was looking back. Now, what do I mean by that is whenever a paper ends and there is a score displaying on your screen that this is your rank amongst your classmate, you came, around 60 in a class of 100, and you might not think that's very good to begin with, but I still think
Right.
that's a good thing. You can look back seeing that you have scope of improvement, and you look back at the paper noticing where you made the mistake. Was it a silly mistake? Was it something that you did not know? Was it a calculation error? What was it?
Right.
So that introspection really helps, when you look back and you're like, oh, this is where I made the mistake, and you try to not make the same mistakes in the next paper. Make new mistakes,
Right.
but not the same ones,
Of
definitely.
course, of course, of course.
Yeah,
And when it comes to understanding a few difficult topics, it's not always that you can refer to one book or anything there.
agreed. Yeah.
Who did you rely on? Did you have any channels that you looked for on YouTube, or did you have any specific books and any specific publication books that you opted for? Do you have any like very very proper calculated list of things that we are supposed to do?
Yeah, we didn't have computers or phones access in our like institution. They were like seriously banned. We were not allowed to use them at all, especially YouTube. But I religiously read physics, like NCRT, as like as a definitive thing to go with,
Okay.
because NCRT has to be done. Like the way they explain the most complex problems is the in a very simple ways, it actually helps you understand it much better. And then for physics, you have H.C. Verma, which is again another religious thing that I used to follow. And for
Right.
chemistry, you have um, some Chandra book. I think I don't remember the books obviously now because I've lost touch. But then yeah, there were certain books there. Yeah.
The portion for advance and mains is pretty different. So, how was the preparation style different, and what differently did you do between this and between the mains and between the mains and advance? What was
Yeah,
your
sure.
strategy?
So, the difference between what I think the difference between JEE mains and advanced is that mains is a paper where you don't have to solve the difficult ones, or there are no easy questions, there are no difficult ones. There are just questions there. They're all equally weighed. You just have to solve as many as you can in a particular time. So the way you give the paper really matters in JEE mains. You pick the easiest ones, you finish, you get done with them,
Right.
you're like, okay, fine. Nobody's giving you extra marks for solving the difficult ones. You can't come out of a paper and say, Ki, I solved the most difficult problem in JEE mains. You get zero credit for that. But for advanced, the things are different. The patterns are different. They make you think, like in a very in a very good manner, where you second guess your answers. You actually have to look at other answers and cross verify if they're actually right or wrong, and rely a lot on what you have learned rather than solve papers. So your theoretical knowledge matters a lot.
Okay. Do you think that just NCRT should be enough for both mains and the
Um,
advance?
Advanced. I don't think for advanced it's enough, because the difficulty level increases obviously. But for JEE, I think if you read NCRT religiously like I did, after every
Right,
single
right.
class, you read it, you make notes, and you solve some extra problems after that, because NCRT has good supplementary problems, but you still need to cover a range of problems before you can appear for JEE mains. Because
Right.
as I said, you have to just know. Like you look at a question, you're like, oh, nice, I have to use this formula, and you're done.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
It's like a considering the whole process. It's not a time. It's a huge process. It's like a two year long process. Some people start preparing even before that.
Agreed.
So
Yeah.
you have to avoid distractions. You have to keep yourself motivated to do the same thing over and over again every day.
Yeah.
What was your mantra to that?
Well, I so you have to differentiate between a distraction and a break first of all, because I have seen a lot of my batchmates studying since sixth standards and even earlier like ages, earlier standards, and they reached burnout. To which I realized a break is actually very necessary in a day, like half an hour. You just do not study, just look at the sky or play,
Right.
stuff like that. And distractions, basically, it's all on you. It's all self control because if you had a phone, you would definitely go onto YouTube and find something to look at.
True.
But you have to realize that you can look at content even in college, and I mean that's what we mostly do now. It's all
Yeah.
fun and games once you're in college. So you have to realize that there's a specific time for things. So if you want to look at memes, get in a good college and look at memes. It's fine. It's on you. So
True.
yeah,
What was
and
your routine like? What was your routine like?
my routine, so it was pretty strict if I just tell it to you in this manner. But then, yeah, so for in 6:30 a.m. in the morning, we had to leave our hostels and go to the study rooms that we had. For classrooms and study rooms, we had the same place. And from 6:30 to like breakfast, we had study hours, and then a class, then a study hour, then a class, then lunch, then break. So yeah, so by the end of the day used to happen at 10:30. So from 6:30 to 10:30, we're not allowed to go home and stay in the
Right.
campus and study. So yeah,
So after all of this, after all of this, you of course considering it's such a competitive exam, and if everyone is doing the same, you have to put in a little extra, right?
yeah.
So what do you think is the importance of self studying? Even after all of this, what do you think is the importance of self studying?
Yeah. So self studying is very important because, in my opinion, you have to understand where you stand in comparison to other people and in comparison to yourself as well. So if you look at a topic, you have to ask yourself whether I can explain this topic to a person, with complete understanding, and if I can make that person understand this particular topic, then you have learned it to the fullest extent. And
Right.
that only can happen when you're alone thinking where I went wrong. And that's what I like even mentioned. So when you're alone study time can also help you reflect back on the tests that you've given.
Right.
And yeah, so it helps. Definitely you need some self study time.
Yes. How was your study style different when, during the preparation and as the exams came?
Yeah,
How was the style different? Because of course between mains and advance also there has to be some change that you did.
true, true.
How did you do?
So for the exams, we basically gave a lot of something called grant tests, or something that incorporates all of the syllabus that you have over the past 2 years. And then for advanced, you practice more theoretical problems and question your understanding of the subject. That's what the advanced paper get, like the test. They're like, do you
Right.
understand this topic fully? You can know a formula, but you have to know where it comes from, and that where the formula comes from is important, and that's what you work on when you're preparing for advanced.
Right. Now, of course, to maintain a balance amongst all of this, otherwise you're going to drive yourself crazy, right?
Yeah,
Studying the entire day. How did you maintain a balance? Like, did you have any hobbies, or is there any leisure activity that you did? And
yeah.
how much time did you give to it?
So yeah, the moment I feel like I'm reaching burnout, like I use this term specifically because a lot of my friends have reached burnout since like they were studying from sixth and seventh standards, such a young age, and you've been taught the same thing over and over again, which is it might lead to good results in some cases, but in most of the cases it reaches burnout. And even for me, I used to get very tired. So I used to tell myself it's fine, you can take a break once in a while, entertain yourself. It's fine. I am
Right,
interested in poetry, so I didn't even have to move away to do the thing that I liked. I just
right.
flipped to the last page in my notebook and I wrote a poem if I wanted to. Or or we get a half an hour break time also through the day, so I can go out, look at the sky, or play cricket, or you need breaks. You need breaks. You have
Right.
to have that refresh button in your head.
And basically, when you were back home, when you were studying at home, even before you thought of it, like, did anything, like your tenth standard marks or 10th standard grades or even your 12th standard grades have had to do anything with your whole goal?
I think they reflected what I actually had to do further in life, because I was always interested in deeper sciences. So I used to outperform
Right.
in science and physics. Like, it was a cumulative subject in school.
Exactly.
But in social studies and all, I wasn't as nice. So
Right.
I didn't put in the efforts that I put in for science, because it's a natural thing. It comes naturally to people. And the in 12th, I think it was yeah, the boards reflected the same thing as well. So yeah, I think it does point out towards what, like, which subject you want to do better in, because I again outperformed in physics and chemistry, and math was, it was a bit okay, but then
Okay.
yeah.
Wait, like in 10th standard, considering you've taken biotechnology, did you never have an inclination towards becoming a doctor? Like, how did you narrow it down?
Yeah, so biotechnology is the field where you discover things and invent things rather, and work towards. The doctors, they implement what, like the drug you've invented, or something
Right.
that you've come up with. So doctor and the medical sciences, like full on medical sciences, was a very different field, and I was mostly inclined towards how to implement science, physics, math
Right.
into the human body. How can I incorporate this into the human body? That it's a fine line, but then yeah, I think I figured that out in like around 12th, and when I got my scores,
Right.
and yeah, so there's that.
Great. Considering we were just saying about maths and chemistry and physics and how like the difficulty level of the subjects for you. How did you tackle that? Like, which was your favorite subject, and which one, like, which one did you like the most, and which one did you find the most scary, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, so I think by default I love physics, because the sheer availability of the subject, you see it happening everywhere. You see physics everywhere. It's very easy to notice.
Right.
Chemistry is that relationship you have to work really hard upon, because you have to develop the understanding in chemistry. You have to understand how the mechanisms are working, what is the reaction mechanism,
Right.
and everything. So I loved how practical these subjects were. But something I couldn't relate to was math and its real life applications, which I'm realizing right now. Like, now that I'm in
Right.
biotechnology, I use a lot of math to actually solve a lot of algorithms and all. So that comes in later. And the scary subject was math. And well, yeah.
Now it's all cool.
No, it's all cool, because I think I realized where how you asked also how I tackled math
Right.
and all, right? So you have to realize when you're here at an institute like this, or even like in a personal like level, you have a certain goal. Like, you come here to solve certain problems. Now, when you want to solve a problem, you cannot be picky about the subjects you need to learn in order to solve that problem. You have to
Right.
learn like math, chemistry. You have to learn everything so that you can build it like not together and like have a
Right.
definitive result. You can't be picky about things you have to learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this exam is already so competitive. Now, what makes it even more competitive is the negative marking.
Hmm.
It's for some people it's very difficult to get their head around, because
Yeah.
suddenly you see your marks and negative, because of the negative marking your marks have gone down really low.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you were you very aware of that from the very beginning of the whole thing? How did you go about it?
So the first mains that I think I remember very clearly, I sat back and I started to analyze what I had gone wrong. I had a lot of correct answers, but then I had a lot of negatives as well. Now this
Right.
actually really stunts your confidence. You're like, Acha, maybe I do not know the answers well enough, or am I doing them wrong? What is the problem? So if you have negatives, that's good. Like when you're practicing, you're allowed to have negatives. It's not the real
Right.
test right now, but you have to understand where the negatives came from. Why did they happen? So again, is it a silly mistake, or were you just guessing? Please don't guess. That's one of my requests. Just don't guess. Please don't guess. It's not a guessing test.
Right.
And yeah, how do you tackle them is basically, there's, as I mentioned, you have to, there's a certain pattern in which you give a paper. So if you have 3 hours, the first 45 minutes, just look through the questions, mark which ones are easy, so that you finish the very easy, the obvious ones, and then you go to the
Right.
medium level questions and then the hardest level. Because in mains, nobody's, as I mentioned, nobody's giving you extra marks for solving the hard
Right.
questions. They're just there to test your time management, and
Exactly.
yeah, there's that.
For the cutoff, basically.
For the cutoff, yeah.
And now, of course, I mean, if you do not know the question, you of course leave it. But what about the ones that you're skeptical about? You're already under so much stress during the exam that you just do not know that is it like 4 marks extra? Is it worth those 4 marks or a -1?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How do you tackle with that?
Yeah, so the thing with the tough questions and the ones that you are, 50-50 about is that you're under a lot of pressure, as you mentioned. So sometimes your brain does not really work the way you want it to. It just gets confused and it focuses on one single way to solve a problem. What I used to do is I used to leave the problem, take a breather, go to the next question, solve it if it's an easy one, like solve an easy question, and come back to this question if you have time.
Right.
So, so if you're keeping these questions and you're sitting at them for a longer time while writing the paper, then you're going to waste time and not solve the questions which are easy, which is going
Exactly.
to, not help you at all. So the questions which were 50-50, you come back at the end of the paper, you're like, okay, now I'm refreshed, I've solved the easy ones. You gain a little bit of confidence as well. You're like, yeah, now let's try it again with a different method. So yeah, you
Yeah.
need you need some confidence as well, even inside, like while you're writing the paper.
Exactly. You know what? Generally, what was your day like, right? Just the day before the exam. What was that like? Because that is when you're stressing out the most. You cannot sleep. What was your day like?
So my exam center was pretty far away from my house. So I think that's the problem a lot of students will face, because the
Right.
availability of exam centers is not, they're not everywhere. So mom, dad, and I, we went to a guest house there, and we were sleeping there, and I couldn't sleep the whole night. You're right. It was a very sleepless night. I was
Right.
just scared. What I think I did to tackle that, and this is something my dad suggests as well, is that you don't have to study till the last day of the exam. There's a time you should tell yourself ki I am prepped enough,
Right.
and then tell yourself that you can do it. That everything else is, the moment you enter the exam hall, it is not about how much you know, it's about how mentally prepared you are. It's
Right.
if you're prepared, extremely well in theoretical knowledge and tests, but you're panicking, it's not going to
Right.
help. It is not going to help you. You
True.
have to keep a calm head, take a breather, look at the surroundings. Don't cloud yourself with thoughts you don't need. So
Right.
yeah.
And what was it like when you found out that you've got in? What was your parents and your families and your friends? What was it like?
So, um, I was actually, once I was done with advance and once I was done with mains, I had the answer key in front of me. I knew what I had marked. So my dad and I, we went and
Right.
cross-checked how many marks I would be getting. They were a little lower. So I got disappointed at first. I was like, oh no, maybe they were qualifying marks. So I knew I had to focus on
Right.
advanced. But for mains, I got pretty disappointed. And I was like, oh no, it's not going to turn out well. But when we saw the rank come up to, above expected, it was fine. You're
Right.
like, okay, fine. So it's not that bad. So everybody has underperformed in mains. And for advanced, this thing was similar. I saw my rank, and the first question I asked, because I didn't know what ranks corresponded, so I was like,
Right.
will I get anything in this? We were all just shocked, because it's not a rank you know that you're going to get something very nice from.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, there
And
was
what was
that.
it like when they found out that you've gotten in?
When
Like that moment, what was it like?
there was a sigh of relief. You basically just, you're like, done. You're like, okay, now I am done with this. Now you end that phase of life when you know you've
Right.
gotten a result, and the
Right.
JOSA preferences you'll have to fill, and you get, okay,
Hmm.
nice, you've logged on to IIT Kharagpur, it's good, you just stay there, cool,
Right.
it's nice.
Another thing is, how did you lock down that you wanted to do this integrated course? And I also you also mentioned that you were the ex-governor for Encore. What can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So basically, while JOSA happened, that was another stage in your life. You basically look at all the courses that you can be getting, because you can't get
Right.
the top courses in the top universities at the rank. I had a rank around 6,000. So you get you get the old IITs and new IITs, good courses, and I was like, I need the kind of network an old an older
Right.
institute provides, because it's a stronger alum network. There are more people working on newer fields.
Right.
And when it came to biotechnology, I think I had an option between material sciences and biotechnology, and I read about what biotechnology and what its prospects were. And since I was already interested in pure sciences, I was like, yes, I think I can find use to this. And
Right.
I am finding use to this, because I'm going into research now again as well. And
Right.
yeah, and for Encore, the thing is, when you enter college, like, this comes into your college life
Right.
part. So yeah, so
Okay.
the moment you enter this thing, the freedom you get is, it's amazing, because nobody's going to tell you to study, nobody's going to tell you
Okay.
to not hang out with friends. And so yeah, I gave auditions for a club, for a dramatics club that we have here,
Okay.
and I got in, and dramatics became one of the very good hobbies that I have. And
Wow.
yeah, so I slowly rose to the position of a governor, and yeah.
Amazing. That's something very different, you know. Like you've come. What is your life like in the institute now? You know, considering you've come from like studying so much and over again, and then suddenly you're here.
Yeah. Yeah. I would tell it pays off. This is a very simple way, it pays off. So you can always Google, campus life in Kharagpur or in, any other IITs. But then being here is, it's amazing. You, you get to, articulate so many ideas that you have. You get to work on them. You have
Right.
a very supportive support system, like group of friends that they're all working hard towards their
Right.
own goals. You feel
Right.
motivated. I'm glad to have a group like that. And this dramatics encore thing that I have also helped me greatly soften my soft skills, like,
Right.
so being on stage, talking to people. Now these are things you don't learn in school, not as much as in my case. But then yeah, after coming here, yeah, this thing helped.
You
So
did
there's a lot of
everything that you could. You
opportunities the
did
moment you enter
everything.
campus.
And you have the
Exactly.
option to do everything basically.
Exactly. You have loads of options. You can explore, like, the first few years. You can explore and then work on the goal that you want.
That's really great. Tell me something.
Mhm.
What would you after now that you're here, you're a fourth year graduate, right?
Yeah.
So now considering, I think your internship and everything must have started.
Yeah.
What is that journey been like for you now?
So that's another phase of your life. You have to. There are separate channels the institute provides. There's a career development center. They siphon this thing. Companies and students apply, and they
Right.
form a they form a bridge between both of them. But something like this doesn't happen in research yet, because most of the universities that you're applying to, because it's a research internship, you have to apply to universities and not
Right.
companies as of now. So most of those research institutes have their own research programs. So you apply to those, and there's a lot of you know your own work. Like, work needs to be done on your end. You take up projects to build up your profile. You see
Okay.
what professor is working on what field. Does it fit? So you can't just apply anywhere. I can't go and work
Right.
in a random field because it's a number one professor. It's
Right.
not. Yeah, so a job hunt or an intern hunt is more of a matchmaking process. So what is your
Okay.
profile, and does it fit what the professor wants and what you want to do in life as well?
Okay. Have
So
you found the right one?
I'm still looking. I have a professor, but then yeah, I'm still looking.
That's really really amazing.
Yeah.
Tell me what is that one thing that you would tell yourself, because at 15 you do not, at 15 16 when you start preparing, you do not expect the journey to be this long or difficult or easy. What was what is the mantra, do you think? What is that thing that you would go tell yourself back at that time?
Hmm. That's nice. I think I got disheartened very quickly at the starting of my coaching phase because there were other children who were outperforming, you know, uh, in so many fields, in so many ways. My math wasn't as strong enough. I had very sad nights, and I think that actually pushed me to work better. But I just like, if I could tell myself, the younger Karan back then, I would tell ki you just have to stick along. You just have to keep working. That's the only way.
Right.
You can't give up. And since I had goals in my head at that time as well, I was like, I want to help the humankind in these ways, like in science. I'll help them using science. So I was like, you have to find a good institute. You have to work in this way.
Right.
So you just stick along. You're allowed to take breaks. Nobody's telling you to work 24/7. 15 hours a day is more than enough for anything that you have to do. 15 hours a day
Right.
is a humongous amount of time. So if you just work efficiently in that amount a day, you're gonna get there. You're gonna get there. It's a slow process.
Great, that's really wonderful. Another thing
Yeah.
I just wanted to get your opinion on this. Now we at Shivneri School, we're a residential school, and of course
Yeah.
you're in there with your teachers and your and all the students together, and it's a strictly preparatory school for NEET as well as
Okay.
JEE. So, what's your
Okay.
take on that? Like as
So
compared to the other outside, like if you stay at home, and I just want like a your
yeah.
take
So
on
I
this.
myself had a hostel. Like I'm a hostler myself. So I used to live there. We used to have a hostel building and the school building that we have, and we were supposed to go and study there. So I think that actually has its own advantages, sort of a little bit of disadvantages as well, because children end up missing their parents a lot, and those are certain cases. But what I noticed is every single time I met my parents, took a break, stepped out, the kind of mentality that you have to solve a paper, there's a chain of thoughts that you
Right.
have, there's a certain mindset that you're in while solving a paper, that breaks. So suppose on a Sunday
Okay.
that I'm stepping out, I'm having fun going to the mall and coming back on Monday, if I have a paper, I was bound to not perform well in that paper because that chain of me studying throughout the week was broken.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah, so I think being in a hostel actually helps because you have a lot of students who think similar to you, they live similar to you, so you can observe their
Right.
lifestyles as well. Right, how are they living? Do they work
Hmm.
overnight as well, which I would not recommend. Please do not work overnight. The work time that you're getting, 6 to 10, is more than enough. So
Right.
don't put it overtime. Sleep, yeah, you need that sleep. And yeah, so you observe different kind of people, and then you found your own kind of personality. So staying alone also helps,
Hmm.
like away from parents, away from the comforts of the house. I think I perform best when I'm away from the comforts of the house.
Okay. And considering the teachers are close by, is that of any help? How is it beneficial?
So, I mean, if you have teachers nearby and you think you have certain doubts or uh, you know like theoretical issues, then you can always go
Right.
and clear them up. But I have had, and I'm sure even your school has, a good amount of support system. The teachers are supportive. They
Right.
motivate students to study, and I think that is what matters the most after the study hours. So if you
Right.
have, when the day ends, the children don't need more knowledge stuffed into them,
Hmm.
they need motivation. They're like, you can
Right.
go through it, it's just a process, you'll have to stick along, you can do it. And I had luckily these teachers to tell me this. My in charges, my teachers, they were all a very strong support group, and I think that matters the most. So having a teacher there
Hmm.
can be like having a second parent there, to whom you can go to and be like, I
Exactly.
need help, I am feeling underconfident, and I want to be, let's talk. And I think
Right.
that's an important thing.
Wonderful. It was so nice talking to you, Karan. I mean, all the best for your future endeavors. This is
Thank
just
you.
been a wonderful experience. Thank you so much.
Likewise, likewise, likewise.